Okay, Pete, according to Football Insider, Everton's potential new owner, Dan Friedkin, plans to sack Sean Dyche before next season because he doesn't believe he's the right man to lead them out at the new stadium. Who might be that right person for Everton?
Yeah, obviously there is a lot of speculation regarding what's going to happen at Everton once this takeover by the Freaking Group does go ahead. Obviously, a deal has been agreed in principle. We're just waiting for it all to be regulated and signed off by the Premier League. And as normal, when there's new owners, they have their own ideas possibly and everything else of where they want to take the club going forward. And that normally means that the manager could be changed, and that's no different with Sean Dyche here. But like I've said on previous pods, sometimes you have to be careful what you wish for, because although Sean Dyche might not be everybody's cup of tea due to his style of football and everything else, I think he's done a very good job at Everton under the circumstances last season with the points deductions to ensure that they weren't involved in that relegation dogfight was a full testament to the work that Sean Dyche does and what he is good at getting, and that's organising his teams, making them hard to beat and everything else. But yeah, the latest rumours suggest that former Chelsea manager Maurizio Sarri could be a top target for the Freaking Group if they do decide to make a change in management. Obviously Sarri is very highly regarded in coaching circles, did a great job in Italy when he was at Napoli. Obviously he had a spell at Chelsea where he did win the Europa League with Chelsea, but again maybe faltered in the Premier League and ended up losing his job. But I think I don't think there'll be any immediate decisions from the Freaking Group. They'll be planning a full-scale review probably of the running of Everton once they do finally get their feet under the table at Goodison Park, and they'll evaluate everything. And it depends where Everton are on the table at that point as well. They got their first win of the Premier League season last week against Crystal Palace, so if Sean Dyche can go on a run, which his side did last season when they got a bit of momentum, that might change things around when this takeover finally does happen.
For sure. And Paul, Jose Mourinho is somebody that is said to be on that list. Obviously, has a relationship with Friedkin from Roma. What would you think of Mourinho at Everton?
I think for the club that would be a coup. It'd be a real coup to get a manager of that quality. But you look at the list there, you look what Pete said about Sarri. I looked at the list this morning, David Moyes, Potter, Southgate, they're the type of people that are linked with the manager's job. But I think the biggest thing for Everton this season is staying in the Premier League, get the takeover done. Take over the running of the club, which has been a problem for a long time now. And I think it's we've said it before, but it's vitally important that Everton go into the new stadium next season with Premier League football. And a manager like Sean Dyche is going to secure you that. Might not be pretty, might not be the best football to watch all season, but he'll guarantee that will give you the best chance of doing that. If then the owner wants to go in a different direction, inject some cash in January. The problem that you've got is if a new owner comes in and injects a load of cash with a new manager in January and tries to change the direction of the club too quickly, it could go wrong very quickly as well as it could go right. So stability and slow progression will be the one for Everton, and keeping in the Premier League is important.
No doubt. And Pete, Paul mentions that injection of potential cash in January. We've heard that Friedkin does not want to sell Jared Branthwaite, especially not in January when he comes in. Does that mean that there will be an injection of cash in January? He's not worried about bringing in money for a sale of somebody like Branthwaite?
Yeah, I think obviously Everton's position hasn't changed since the summer transfer window. They don't really want to sell Jared Branthwaite. They turned down those couple of offers from Manchester United, which they felt was derisory. Obviously, they would only consider selling Branthwaite for around a fee of 75 million, a similar figure to what other clubs have paid for central defenders, what Chelsea paid for Fofana, what Manchester United paid for Harry Maguire as well. So I think it's extremely unlikely that the Freaking Group would consider letting Branthwaite go in the January transfer market. Everton don't really want to weaken their squad midway through the season, especially if they are in a relegation dogfight as well. That wouldn't be proactive of them, I think, and it would send out the wrong signals to the club supporters if they let one of their prized assets leave in that one. I think obviously with the new ownership, I think they will try and make funds available for the manager in the January transfer window, because there is areas of that squad which I do think need strengthening. I think full-back areas, I think, is an area of the team where they've struggled, so they'll be maybe looking for a bit of cover in those areas. And Sean Dyche would ideally like to bring in another striker as well if he could, and another wide man, just to add a bit of creativity and goals to the side, because that's been a big problem for Everton over the last couple of seasons as well. So with the new ownership, I'm sure they will look to make funds available, but a lot of it again will come down to FFP and PSR regulations and whether Everton can spend any money, because we know they had to cut their cloth before that June 30th deadline earlier this year, just to make sure that they were complying with PSR as well. So I don't think they're out of the woods on that front just yet. So yeah, I think it's still a lot unknown what's going to happen with Everton and everything else. But obviously, like Paul's mentioned, the main thing is just to get this ownership situation sorted, and then they can have a bit of stability.
And Paul, Pete mentioned a new striker. Dominic CalvertLewin has kind of been hot and cold a lot over the last couple of years between injury and kind of just not great form in front of net. But there's no doubt he's been crucial to the way that the side plays. What do you think on his future? Is he someone who should try and stay at Everton now that they have new ownership, or he's got greener pastures elsewhere?
He's got to stay fit on a regular basis and score goals on a regular basis. I think that's the biggest thing with him. I think that's been his problem the last few seasons. I think when he plays and he's at his best and he's fully fit, you can see what a top player he is. I mean, I watched him. When did I watch him? A couple of weeks ago at Aston Villa, and he looked a top striker. I mean, he got his goal, had the opportunity to make it 3-1, had the opportunity to make it 3-all. He looked sharp. The biggest thing for me was he pressed from the front, which is when a striker's not quite fully fit. I mean, Harry Kane came out after the Euros, didn't he? He spoke. He said he wasn't quite fully fit, and you could tell when a striker's not fully fit and not firing. There's certain aspects of his game where it's the closing down or just little things in the game. And with Dominic Calvert-Lewin, you can see it clearly with him. But a fit Dominic Calvert-Lewin, there'll be a lot of people that will look at him in the Premier League. I mean, he's already been linked with Newcastle. We've spoke to each other numerous times on this podcast about where he's linked with. Is he potentially going to be moving away from Everton? But actually, with a new ownership, with a new injection of cash, if he keeps himself fit and plays like he has done at times this season, then you keep a player like that. But his contract situation will determine that.
No doubt. And Pete, there is one link kind of strong for this January, is Emiliano Martinez, the Uruguayan midfielder, who's linked with Everton for about £8 million. Do you think that's a move that might happen, a little bit more of a budget deal in January before the real cash influx maybe comes next summer?
Yeah, there's a potential that they might look at cheaper deals in January. We know that a lot of clubs don't really want to spend huge sums in the January transfer window, and the clubs that are selling don't want to sell their top players as well, so that's what makes the January transfer window a difficult window to do deals in. Yeah, this Martinez, a midfielder who he has been on Everton's radar for quite a while. I think they were first linked with him in the summer of 2023, so obviously that interest hasn't gone away. I think they're quite well stocked in midfield right now. I don't think it's a priority position for Everton probably in the January transfer window. Maybe come next summer it might be, when you've got the likes of Doucouré and Idrissa Gueye both coming to the end of their contracts, so it might be an area of the team that they might look to strengthen in next summer's transfer window, but I don't think it's a priority for them in January. But yeah, as I said, obviously Martinez is somebody who has been on their radar for a while, and I'm sure the scouting and recruitment team at Everton will be doing their due diligence on the Uruguayan, and as I said, he could be a cheap alternative to other potential targets in the window as well. But yeah, I don't think it's a priority for the club to be looking at a centre midfielder for January.